All right, all you Jeep owners out there, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about that one little light that can cause a great big headache, the check engine light. And we're not just talking about any code. We're diving deep into one of the trickiest ones you might ever see, P0670.
You know that feeling, right? You're just cruising alone, everything feels perfect, and then bam, that little amber engine icon just lights up your dashboard. It is a moment of pure frustration. And hey, we've all been there.
But, if you've already plugged in that code scanner and it spit back the code P0670, well, guess what? You are in exactly the right place. We're going to walk through this together and get you from diagnosis to solution nice and easy.
Okay, let's really dive into this frustrating P0670 code. Because, let's be honest, this specific code can be a real pain to track down if you don't know exactly where to start looking. And listen, you are not alone in feeling that way. It's a known thing. This code can cause a ton of frustration for owners. It's not always just a simple, obvious fix. It can feel like a puzzle. But don't you worry, because we're going to solve it together. So, what is your Jeep actually trying to tell you? What does this cryptic code even mean? Let's decode this malfunction, shall we? To put it simply, P0670 means glow plug controller circuit malfunction. Think of it as a direct message from your Jeep's onboard computer saying, hey, we've got an electrical problem in the glow plug system over here.
So here's the bottom line. Your engine control module, the ECM, which is basically the brain of your entire vehicle, it's found a problem. It sees that the electrical path for the glow plug module is either broken, that's what we call an open condition, or it's making a connection where it absolutely shouldn't be, which is a short.
And that brings us to our investigation. When you see code P0670, there are really 4 main suspects we need to look at. So let's line them up. Here it is. This is our diagnostic roadmap. The problem could be the glow plug module itself, a problem with the circuit's wiring, a really tricky intermittent issue, or, and this is the least likely, the ECM itself. But the good news is, for each of these culprits, there is a clear solution. Now let's talk about our number 1 suspect, a failed glow plug module. Honestly, this is a super common reason for this code to pop up. And the really good news? The fix is usually just a straightforward replacement. Okay, culprit number 2 is an issue with the control circuit's wiring. This means it's time to put on our detective hats and really inspect those wires for any kind of damage, any breaks, or maybe even just a connection that's wiggled itself loose.
Then we've got the sneakiest suspect of them all, an intermittent condition. This is when the problem comes and goes, which can be absolutely maddening. But a lot of the time, this points to something as simple as a loose connection that just needs to be clicked back into place.
And finally, our last culprits, and for sure the least likely of the 4, is that the ECM itself has failed. Now, it's a possibility, but it's one you should only really consider after you've completely ruled out the other 3 suspects. Okay, so we know the suspects. The big question is, how do we systematically find the guilty party without wasting a bunch of time or money? Easy. Let's run through your diagnostic checklist. Now, the key here, and this is really important, is to follow a logical path. We're going to go from the easiest and most likely fixes all the way to the most complex. Trust me, this approach is your best friend for a quick and painless repair.
First things first. Step 1. Check for loose connections. Seriously, before you go out and buy a single part, just get your eyes and your hands on that wiring harness for the glow plug module. Wiggle the connectors, make sure everything is seated nice and firm. This super simple check could solve the entire problem right then and there.
All right, moving on to step 2, inspect the wiring itself. You're going to want to carefully trace the wires connected to the module. Do you see any signs of rubbing, cracking, maybe some melting or corrosion? This is where you're likely to find that pesky open or shorted circuit. Now here's what's cool about this next step. If the connections are all tight and the wiring looks perfect, well, you've just successfully cornered your most likely suspect. Step 3 is to test the glow plug module itself and confirm whether or not it has failed.
And only after you've gone through all those other checks, only then do you arrive at step 4. Consider the ECM. If the module, the wiring, and all the connections are good to go, then it's finally time to investigate if the main computer is the real source of the problem.
See? By following this clear, step-by-step process, you can pinpoint the exact cause of that P0670 code. So let's wrap this up and talk about getting you back out on the road where you belong. So, what are the big things to remember here? First, always start with the simple stuff, the visual checks. It can save you so much trouble. Second, remember that a failed glow plug module is a really common culprit. And third, following that logical diagnostic path is your absolute best friend.
And that's really the whole goal here, isn't it? When you have the right knowledge, you can absolutely walk out there and confidently tackle this issue yourself. This kind of knowledge is power, especially when that check engine light is staring you down.
So, I've just got one last question for you. Are you feeling ready? Ready to take control of that code, solve the puzzle, and get back to what really matters, getting out there and enjoying your Jeep? I think you are.